You're out. Effective, immediately. My father didn't even look up from his desk as he said it. His pen kept moving across the contract in front of him, signing away my future with each stroke. I stood in his office doorway, still holding my coffee from the morning meeting. Dad, what are you talking about? Marcus will be taking over your position as operations director. You'll receive 2 weeks severance. Security will escort you out in 10 minutes. My coffee cup slipped from my hand, hitting the carpet with a dull thud. My name is Alex Harrison, and the man firing me was my father, the same man who'd promised my dying mother that he'd always take care of me. I'd worked at Harrison Manufacturing for 8 years, starting in the warehouse at 16, the summer before Mom passed away. She'd been so proud, telling everyone her youngest son was learning the family business from the ground up. This company was supposed to be my future, the legacy she wanted me to carry forward. Why? The word came out broken, like something in my chest was cracking. He finally looked at me, his expression cold and businesslike, nothing like the father who'd held me at Mom's funeral 7 years ago. Your brother is ready for more responsibility. This is a family decision. My brother, Marcus, the golden child who'd barely shown up to work in the 3 years since college, who'd skipped Mom's chemo appointments because they depressed him. The son from Dad's first marriage, the one who'd always gotten everything handed to him while I had to earn every scrap of approval. Mom wouldn't want this, I whispered, and immediately hated myself for playing that card. Dad's face hardened. Don't you dare bring your mother into this. She's gone, and I'm running this company now. What I say goes. The words hit like a slap. Mom had been the bridge between us, the one who smoothed over Dad's harshness and my stubbornness. Without her, we'd become strangers who happened to share a last name. I'd spent that morning presenting my plan to expand our product line, a proposal I'd worked on for 6 months, staying up late after visiting Mom's grave every Sunday, pouring my grief into making her proud. Dad had nodded along, asked good questions, seemed impressed. The entire executive team had been there, including Marcus, who'd spent the meeting scrolling through his phone. 2 hours later, I was being fired. This is because I disagreed with you about the merger, I said, my voice shaking. You wanted to sell to Peterson Industries, and I showed the board why it was a bad deal. Mom always said, your mother isn't here. Dad's voice cracked like thunder. You embarrassed me in front of the board. You undermined my authority. You forgot that I built this company, not you. Not her. Me. I was trying to protect what you and Mom built together. Peterson's offer was 20% below market value, and their contract. Enough. He stood up, his face red with anger. Security. They walked me to my office where I had 15 minutes to pack my personal items. My assistant, Claire, stood in the doorway with tears streaming down her face. She'd worked with Mom too, before the cancer. Mrs. Harrison would be heartbroken, Claire whispered. She always said you were the one who truly understood this place. I grabbed the photo of Mom from my desk, the one taken at my college graduation, her wearing that ridiculous oversized hat despite losing all her hair to chemo. She'd been so weak that day, but she'd refused to miss it. My baby's graduating, she'd said, squeezing my hand. And he's going to do amazing things with your father at the company. I'd promised her I would. Now I was being thrown out like garbage. Marcus appeared as I was packing the last box. He leaned against my doorframe, that smug expression making him look exactly like his mother, Dad's first wife, the one who'd left when Marcus was 10. Don't take it personally, little brother. Business is business. Marcus smirked, using the nickname he knew I hated. We'd never been close. How could we be when his mother had abandoned him and mine had loved me fiercely? You can't even read a P&L statement without help, I said, my voice breaking. Maybe not. But I'm the oldest son, and Dad's ready to retire. He needs someone he can trust in charge. He lowered his voice. Someone who won't question his decisions or make him look bad. Someone who understands loyalty. Mom taught me loyalty. She taught me to fight for what's right. Mom's dead, Alex. And the dead don't run companies. He walked away whistling, and I wanted to put my fist through the wall. Instead, I picked up the last box, walked past security, and drove home with Mom's photo sitting in my passenger seat, her smile mocking my failure. I spent that evening in my apartment, staring at photos of Mom. Her at the company Christmas party, laughing with employees who loved her. Her in the warehouse, wearing a hard hat and inspecting products. Her last birthday, so thin and pale but still smiling, still fighting. "I'm sorry, Mom," I whispered to her picture. "I tried." My best friend Tyler came over with pizza and beer, finding me on the floor surrounded by memories. "Your dad's destroying everything your mom built," he said gently. "She was the heart of that company. He's just the ego. He's grieving. He doesn't know how to function without her. That's not an excuse for treating you like this. Your mom would be furious." He was right. Mom had been fierce when it came to protecting me. When Dad had wanted me to skip college and work full-time at the company, she'd fought him for weeks until he agreed to let me get my degree. When Marcus had tried to take credit for one of my projects, she'd set the record straight in front of the entire board. The severance lasted exactly 3 weeks. I sent out resumes, but word had spread in our small industrial town. Nobody wanted to hire someone Alan Harrison had fired, especially not his own son. The gossip was brutal. People whispered that I must have done something terrible, that there must be more to the story. I took a job at a logistics company making half my old salary, and I hated every minute of it. My new boss, Frank, knew my mother had been brilliant and seemed disappointed I wasn't more like her. I wanted to scream that I was trying, that she'd taught me everything I knew, that losing her and the company in the span of 7 years was killing me. Instead, I bit my tongue and did my work, visiting Mom's grave every Sunday to tell her about my failures. Then I ran into Peterson at a coffee shop. Daniel Peterson, the CEO who'd tried to buy Harrison Manufacturing. He recognized me immediately and invited me to sit. "I was sorry to hear about your mother," he said first. "Helena was one of the sharpest business minds I ever met. And I was sorry to hear about your father's decision. His loss." We talked for an hour about Mom, about the company, about what had happened. Peterson's respect for her made my chest ache with missing her. "Your mother understood something your father doesn't," Peterson explained. "She knew that Harrison Manufacturing's value wasn't in the building or equipment, it was in the people and relationships. That's what I wanted to buy. Your father's running it into the ground, and it would break Helena's heart. Why did you offer such a low price if you thought it was valuable?" I asked. "Because your father was desperate. He's been taking money out of the business for years, started right after Helena died, like he was trying to fill the void with expensive things. The company's profitable on paper, but the cash reserves are dangerously low." My hands clenched around my coffee cup. Mom had been so careful with money, so strategic. Dad was destroying her legacy. How long does he have? 6 months, maybe less. Then Harrison Manufacturing, everything your mother built, will be worthless. I went home and started digging into Harrison Manufacturing's financials, using access I still had and relationships with vendors who'd loved Mom. Peterson was right. Dad was bleeding the company dry, and Marcus was making it worse with incompetent decisions. They'd lost the Morrison account, Mom's first major client, the one she'd won by personally visiting their plant every week for a month while pregnant with me. They'd lost Patterson, the client who'd sent flowers to Mom's funeral and told me she'd changed his entire approach to business. I made spreadsheets, tracked the decline, and calculated how long they had. 9 months, maybe less. Then I did something that felt like betraying Mom's memory, but also like honoring it. I decided to buy the company myself. To save what she'd built. To prove that her youngest son, the one she believed in so fiercely, could protect her legacy even if Dad couldn't. I pulled out the journal Mom had given me a week before she died. "Write down your dreams," she'd said, her voice barely a whisper. "And then fight like hell to make them real." The problem was money. I had $12,000 in savings, Money I'd been setting aside to buy flowers for Mom's grave every week. Buying a company, even a bankrupt one, would cost hundreds of thousands, maybe millions. I started working on a business plan obsessively, just like Mom had taught me. During the day, I did my logistics job. At night, I built a strategy to save her company. I researched bankruptcy auctions and talked to lawyers about the process. Tyler thought I was losing my mind. "You're talking about buying your dad's company? The one that fired you? That your mom built?" "I'm talking about saving Mom's legacy. Dad and Marcus are destroying what took her 30 years to build. Someone's going to buy it at bankruptcy. Why not me? Why not the son she trained for this? Because you don't have any money, and because this is going to destroy you emotionally." He wasn't wrong. But every time I visited Mom's grave, I felt her pushing me forward. "Don't let them ruin it," I'd whisper at her headstone. "I won't let them ruin what you built." 6 months after being fired, I quit my logistics job and started consulting. I used everything Mom had taught me to help small manufacturers improve their operations. The money was inconsistent, but I was building a reputation as Helena Harrison's son, the one who'd inherited her brilliance even if he hadn't inherited the company. At an industry conference, I met Vivian Torres, a venture capitalist who'd worked with Mom years ago. When I mentioned my plan, her eyes filled with tears. "Your mother was my mentor," she said. "When I was starting out, everyone dismissed me. Helena took me seriously, gave me advice, opened doors. I owed her everything." She paused. "If you're trying to save her company, I want to help. Not just as an investment, as a way to honor her memory." I pitched her my plan, my voice breaking when I explained how Dad and Marcus were destroying everything Mom had built. How she'd be devastated to see her life's work crumbling. "How much do you need?" Vivian asked. "At least $1 million to have a real shot. I'll put in 300,000. For Helena." I cried in my car after that meeting, the first time I'd really cried since Mom's funeral. Someone believed in me. Someone remembered her and wanted to help save her legacy. Meanwhile, Harrison Manufacturing continued its death spiral. They lost the Foster account. Mom's best friend had run that company, and she called me personally to say she couldn't work with Marcus anymore. "Your mother would be so disappointed," she said, crying. "That boy doesn't understand the first thing about relationships or quality or integrity. Everything Helena stood for is gone." Marcus posted photos on social media from expensive vacations while employees worried about layoffs. Dad called me once during this period, drunk and maudlin. "I miss her so much," he slurred. "The company feels empty without her. I don't know what I'm doing anymore. Then let me help. Let me come back and fix this before it's too late." "I can't. Marcus is family. Your mother would understand putting family first. Mom would understand putting the company first. She always did." He hung up, and I screamed into my pillow until my throat hurt. I spent the next 3 months pitching every investor I could find, telling them about Mom's vision, about what the company had been when she was alive, about what it could be again. Some said no immediately. Others listened but couldn't see past the current disaster. Then I met James Wu, who owned a manufacturing supply chain. He'd worked with Mom for 15 years and had spoken at her funeral. "Helena saved my business once," he told me. "I'd made a catastrophic mistake with a supplier, and she spent 3 weeks helping me fix it. Didn't charge me a penny, just said we were friends. When she died, I promised myself I'd pay that kindness forward." He looked at my business plan, then at me. "You have her eyes. And her mind. $400,000. That's what I can do." With Vivian's 300 and James's 400, I had 700,000. Still short of the million I needed, but getting closer to fulfilling my promise to Mom. The bankruptcy filing came 8 months after I was fired. Harrison Manufacturing, the company my grandfather had started, my mother had grown, and my father had destroyed, officially declared Chapter 11. I drove to Mom's grave and sobbed against her headstone. "I'm trying," I told her. I'm trying so hard to save it, but I don't know if I can. The wind rustled through the trees, and I swear I felt her hand on my shoulder the way she used to when I was upset. You can do this, her voice whispered in my memory. You're stronger than you know. The bankruptcy court set an auction date, 90 days out. 3 months to raise the remaining $300,000 I needed. Tyler helped me create a crowdfunding campaign aimed at former employees and community members who remembered Mom. We told her story, how she'd built the company with integrity and heart, how she'd treated employees like family, how she deserved better than watching her life's work destroyed. It raised $70,000 from people who'd loved her. Still not enough, but each donation came with a note about Mom that made me cry. I was still short $230,000 with 3 weeks until the auction. I'd exhausted every investor contact, every potential backer. I was sitting at Mom's grave, admitting defeat, when my phone rang from an unknown number. Alex Harrison? This is Daniel Peterson. I heard about the bankruptcy auction, he continued. And I heard you're trying to buy Helena's company. She'd be proud of that. I don't have enough money, I admitted, my voice breaking. I'm going to fail her. No, you're not. I'll cover what you're short. We'll buy the company together, 60-40 split in my favor. You run it the way Helena would have wanted, I provide capital. We save her legacy together. I started crying. Right there at her gravestone. Why would you do this? Because your mother once helped me when nobody else would. Because watching her company die would be a tragedy. And because you're her son, and she believed in you. That's enough for me. We formed Harrison Industrial Partners 3 days before the auction. The morning of the sale, I visited Mom's grave wearing the tie she'd given me for my college graduation. I'm bringing it home, Mom, I whispered. I'm saving what you built. The auction was held at the county courthouse. Dad was there, looking broken and old. When he saw me, his face crumbled. You're really going to do this? He asked. Buy your mother's company out from under me? I'm not buying it from you. I'm saving it from what you did to it. There's a difference. She'd hate that we're fighting like this. She'd hate that you destroyed 30 years of her work in less than 2. My voice cracked. Marcus isn't here. He doesn't even care enough to show up. But I'm here, Dad. The son you threw away is the one trying to save Mom's legacy. Tears streamed down his face. I made a mistake. I see that now. Yes, you did. And now I'm fixing it. The bidding started at 500,000. I raised to 600, my heart pounding. A corporate liquidator jumped to 700. I went to 850, thinking of Mom's face when she'd first shown me the factory floor. The competitor dropped out at 900,000. The liquidator kept pushing, 1 million, 1.1, 1.2. At 1.3 million, I hesitated. Peterson, sitting beside me, leaned close. Your mother would tell you to go all in. Do it for her. 1.4 million, I called out, my voice steady for the first time. The liquidator shook his head. We're out. Going once, going twice, sold to Peterson Industrial Partners for $1.4 million. I'd done it. I'd saved Mom's company. I sat there in the courthouse, tears streaming down my face, feeling her presence so strongly it was like she was sitting beside me, squeezing my hand the way she used to during scary moments. Dad and Marcus left without speaking to me. I watched Dad's shoulders shake with sobs as they walked to their car. Part of me wanted to chase after him, to tell him I forgave him, that Mom would want us to reconcile. But the larger part remembered being escorted out by security, remembered watching her legacy crumble while he did nothing. The real work started immediately. I spent my first day as owner walking the factory floor, talking to employees who'd loved Mom. Many of them hugged me, crying, saying they'd prayed someone would save the company she'd built. Mrs. Harrison was the best boss I ever had, one machine operator told me, his voice thick with emotion. She knew all our names, asked about our families. When my wife had cancer, she paid for treatments we couldn't afford. Just said, "Pay it forward someday." I thought everything she built was dead. It's not dead. We're bringing it back the way she'd want it. I promoted Claire to operations manager. Mom had been mentoring her before she got sick, had seen her potential. I brought back 2 senior engineers Marcus had fired, people who'd worked alongside Mom for years. I started calling our old clients, the ones who'd loved working with Mom. "This is Alex Harrison," I'd say. "Helena Harrison's son. I'm back, and I'm running things the way my mother would have wanted." The response was overwhelming. People who'd refused to work with Marcus called back within hours, wanting to give us another chance. Not because of me, because they'd loved Mom and wanted to honor her memory. The first 3 months were brutal. We operated on razor-thin margins, barely making payroll. But every Friday, I'd visit Mom's grave and update her on our progress. "We saved Morrison this week," I'd tell her headstone. "They signed a new contract because they remembered you." Peterson called weekly demanding updates, but he always softened when I mentioned Mom. "Helena would be proud of you," he'd say. "Keep fighting for her." 6 months after buying the company, we turned our first profit. It was small, barely $10,000, but it was profit. I drove straight to Mom's grave with the financial report. "We did it, Mom," I whispered, pressing the paper against her headstone. "Your company is alive. It's going to be okay." I sat there until dark, telling her about every client we'd won back, every employee who'd thanked me for saving their job, every small victory that felt like honoring her memory. The employees threw a celebration in the break room. Someone had found an old photo of Mom from a company picnic and hung it on the wall. Looking at her smile, so proud and happy, I felt her approval washing over me. "To Helena Harrison," Claire said, raising a cup of cheap champagne. "The woman who built something worth saving, and the son who loved her enough to save it." We all toasted to Mom, and I cried in front of everyone. Nobody judged me for it. Year 2 brought exponential growth. We landed contracts with 3 Fortune 500 companies, including one Mom had been pitching before she got sick. When I signed that contract, I took it to her grave and read every clause aloud so she could hear. "You did the hard part," I told her headstone. "You built the foundation. I'm just finishing what you started." Peterson stopped calling to complain and started calling to congratulate. "You're not just saving a company," he said. "You're building a legacy your mother would be proud of." I implemented profit-sharing bonuses the way Mom had always wanted to but Dad had refused. When we hit revenue targets, everyone benefited. I promoted 15 employees to supervisory positions, people who'd stuck with the company through bankruptcy, people who'd loved working for Mom. Marcus moved to California. Through family contacts, I heard he'd told people that I'd stolen the company from Dad. I didn't bother correcting him. Mom knew the truth, and that was enough. Dad called once during this period, his voice small and broken. "I saw the article in the Business Journal about how you've turned the company around. They mentioned your mother, said you're running it the way she would have. That's always been the goal. I destroyed what she built. I can't believe I was so stupid." "You were grieving, Dad. You didn't know how to function without her. That's not an excuse. She'd be so disappointed in me." He was crying now. Can we talk sometime? I want to apologize properly. I want to explain why I—" "Not yet," I interrupted gently. "I'm not ready. Maybe someday, but I need more time." After we hung up, I drove to Mom's grave. "I'm still angry at him," I admitted to her headstone. "I know you'd want me to forgive him, but I can't yet. Is that okay?" The wind rustled the flowers I'd planted around her grave, her favorite roses, the ones she used to grow in our backyard before she got too sick to garden. Year 3, Peterson approached me with an offer to buy my 40% stake. I was standing at Mom's grave when he called, like I did every Sunday. "Why would I sell?" I asked. "This is Mom's company. This is her legacy. Because you could be rich and free. Start another company, retire young, do whatever you want. You've proven your point. This isn't about proving a point. It's about honoring my mother. 400 people work here now because she built something worth saving. I'm not walking away from that. She'd be proud of you, Peterson said quietly. For what it's worth, I knew your mother. She was remarkable. And so are you. After we hung up, I sat by Mom's grave for hours, talking to her the way I used to when she was alive. Telling her about the company, about the employees, about the contracts we'd won. She'd always been my best sounding board, the one who understood my dreams and fears. I miss you so much, I whispered. Every single day. But I'm trying to make you proud. 5 years after being fired, I was invited to speak at the State Manufacturing Association conference. I stood at the podium and told my story, but mostly, I told Mom's story. My mother, Helena Harrison, built something extraordinary. I began, my voice shaking. She believed that businesses should treat employees like family, that quality mattered more than shortcuts, that relationships were worth more than quarterly profits. When she died 7 years ago, she left behind a company that reflected those values. I talked about how Dad had destroyed that legacy through grief and poor decisions. How Marcus had made it worse through incompetence and ego. How the company Mom had built with such love had nearly died. But here's what my mother taught me, I said, tears streaming down my face. She taught me that things worth having are worth fighting for. That failure isn't permanent unless you stop trying. That love, real love, means protecting what matters even when it's hard. The audience gave me a standing ovation. Dad was there, in the back row, crying openly. Today, 10 years after being fired, Harrison Industrial is a $50 million company. We employ 800 people across 3 facilities. We're profitable, growing, and industry leaders in our sector. Everything Mom dreamed of and more. I bought Peterson's 60% stake last year. The company is fully mine now, exactly as Mom would have wanted. I renamed the main conference room after her, the Helena Harrison Room, with her photo on the wall and a plaque listing her core values that we still follow. Dad passed away 2 years ago. At his funeral, he was buried next to Mom. I left flowers on both graves and told them I'd forgiven him, that Mom would have wanted that. It was true, mostly. Some wounds heal slower than others. Every Sunday, I still visit Mom's grave with fresh roses. I tell her about the company, about the employees she'd remember, about the legacy she left behind. Sometimes I swear I hear her voice saying she's proud of me. Marcus apologized at Dad's funeral, said he'd been young and stupid and jealous. I told him I understood, which was partially true. We're not close, but we're not enemies anymore. Mom would have wanted that too. Tyler is still my CFO. Claire is VP of Operations. Many people who loved Mom are still here, building something she'd be proud of. When I walk through the factory, I see her everywhere, in the quality standards we maintain, in how we treat employees, in the relationships we value. My father removed me from the business overnight, but I fought through life to buy it back. Not for revenge, but for love. Love for my mother, who believed in me when nobody else did. Who taught me everything that mattered. Who built something worth saving. I won. Not because I wanted to hurt Dad, but because I refused to let Mom's legacy die. And every day, when I pass her photo in the Helena Harrison Room, I whisper the same thing. I kept my promise, Mom. I saved what you built. I hope I made you proud. And somewhere, I know she's smiling.